waited for the daily edition of Trotz Watch until you joined us. People have been asking. I said, don't worry, we will get to it. Listen, we've talked about this for the last couple of weeks. Been interesting following these stories. What is the latest on the Jets' pursuit of Barry Trotz, as well as other NHL teams' pursuit of the most attractive free agent coach right now in hockey?
Yeah, Huss, status quo on a lot of fronts, I believe. And as we've been talking about for a while, it's a methodical approach being taken by Barry Trotz. We know this is a guy who has his eyes set on management down the road. So he's not looking to rush into anything. We know that he has had his meeting with the Philadelphia Flyers, colleagues Jeff Merrick and Elliot Friedman reporting that. Also expected to be on the dock at the Dallas Stars, the Detroit Red Wings, and I think we'll be waiting to see what happens in Florida, what the decision on Andrew Burnett's future is. It's not often you would see a Jack Adams candidate be not renewed, but early exits or what would be an early exit for someone with Stanley Cup aspirations, and given the circumstances, I would think that they will be considering, Barry Trotz as well. But at the same time, I think Andrew Burnett did a great job under some very difficult circumstances there. And when a lot of your big guns don't show up, it's tough to get by the Tampa Bay Lightning, as we found out. Also, too, one other thing, Huss, that I would mention, I mean, you never want to put people in jeopardy here, but should the Colorado Avalanche not advance from the second round for a fourth consecutive season, I'm not sure what the job security would be like there. But again, I think that Jared Bednar has handled this situation incredibly well. I thought he was very calm and composed. He definitely was playing the belief soundtrack was definitely in full force with his players and with himself. And quite frankly, him saying that the only team that we feel can beat us is ourselves. So I'll be very fascinated to see how that group responds. Obviously, just a dynamic performance from Nathan McKinnon in Game 5, obviously. But again, I'm not here to put anyone's job in jeopardy here, Huss, by any stretch. But I mean,
you just fired Jared Bednar. You just fired Jared Bednar. I can't believe he did that.
Yeah.
No, hey, listen.
That's my style, Huss. That's my style.
It has to be mentioned because, listen, I think that's a realistic possibility. I mean, if they were to blow a 3-1 lead and not get out of this, there would be some serious questions. Otherwise, we're going to see McKinnon and McDavid go at it in the conference finals, and every hockey fan will be happy for it. Just as far as Trotz goes, do you have any inkling on timeframes for all this? I mean, certainly the Jets would like to get some sort of clarity because, I mean, if they are not going to get Barry Trotz, there's a number of other potential coaches that they'll be meeting with, and that could already be happening. But from the Trotz side of things, is this going to play out for a long period of time, or do you think that they're, in the next week or two, there'll be some clarity one way or the other?
Yeah, so I mean, we've discussed this for the last couple of weeks here since it became a possibility. I don't see this being a quick process. And as I mentioned, I mean, there's other opportunities to consider. I think that the Jets obviously are still a strong consideration for Barry Trotz. And if that were not the case, I think that we would have heard that by now, and that they would be moving on to plans B and C and whatever else. But it's clear that Barry Trotz remains the top priority for True North. He obviously is listening to the offer. I think he's giving it serious consideration. But I mean, Barry's been around the league a long time. I mean, this is a guy that was, I think, 15 years in Nashville. And if he's approaching this as it's going to be potentially his last head coaching job, he's going to want to consider all options. And as I mentioned, I mean, Florida hasn't made their decision, and we don't know what's going to be happening based on how the next couple of games go. So I know the Jets fans would like this done 2 weeks ago or yesterday, but I think that the patience element is still going to be required. I know you talked about him a little bit earlier this week and last week, I think also as well, with Jeff Hamilton, our colleague and friend. Kirk Muller is a guy that I think is on the Jets' radar as well. And one thing that we should also maybe remember, Huss, which I had to go back to consult the old notes, but I remember that in that first year after relocation, I think the Jets or True North had Kirk Muller in for an interview for the St. John's position. I want to say that was the case. Kirk Muller ultimately went to the Milwaukee Admirals instead that year, and then that's when he took over from Paul Maurice that same year. It was a truncated season for Kirk at the minor league level. I think I'm pretty sure that Kirk would have impressed the True North folks in that interview process, and I mean, Muller himself probably was hoping that he would be under consideration for the Jets job that year, but I think what ended up happening is he may have been offered the Ice Caps job instead, and then opted for the Milwaukee Admirals. I mean, again, I'd have to go back and double check, but that's my understanding of. I know they've spoken with him before, so no surprise that there would be interest given his role on Daryl Sutter's staff with the Calgary Flames. But we know there's other candidates. We know we've discussed most of them. Pascal Vincent, Scott Arniel would be among those folks that would be in the discussion, but. Another, the other interesting one that Jeff was mentioning with, Rick Bowness as a potential assistant. I mean, Rick is a very passionate individual. He has a history with the city, and if there's a vacancy coaching the defense, I think he would be a guy that would be under consideration. And I mean, I would also say that maybe Nolan Baumgartner might be a guy that would be under consideration for that as well. Nolan coaching with Claude Julien again at the World Championships with Canada, and man, I know we were both watching that game yesterday. What an impact for Pierre-Luc Dubois. Sorry to take a tangent, but I mean, Nolan has worked with Claude Julien at a couple of events now, I think at the Olympics and now at the World Championship, and had his chance to run his own bench at the U18s as well. So obviously we know he's a former Moose captain and might be a guy that the organization could look at down the road as a potential assistant. But again, they got to hire the head guy first and sort of see where things go. But I don't anticipate there being a press conference. Let's just put it this way, Huss. I'm not anticipating a press conference on a Tuesday, for example.
Yes. What a dud that one was.